Hello, my name is Milton Villa. This research project is in coordination with the Virginia War Memorial Shrine of Memory. We chose to do our research on the Korean War, and particularly this veteran named Corporal Marvin Bruce Alderman. He was born on March 23rd, 1929, and he passed on April 1st, 1952. The picture on your right is a picture of Corporal Alderman at the age of 16 years old. Marvin was born in Montgomery County, Virginia, which is located in southwest Virginia. It borders Radford County, which is where Marvin attended high school at Radford High School, and where he also spent the majority of his upbringing. Here we have a family tree that goes back 4 generations. The most important people on this family tree, however, are his parents, his father, who is Harry Bruce Alderman, and his mother, who is Velma T. Hartstock. He had a wife named Mary L. Alderman. We'll go more in depth about her later in this presentation. He also had 2 siblings, Nancy Alderman and Margie Loveleen Alderman. They have passed, however. Unfortunately, we were not able to obtain a photocopy of his birth certificate. We checked with the Virginia Health Department and the Library of Virginia. This I accessed on Ancestry.com, which is typically where the Library of Virginia obtains copies of birth certificates, but unfortunately there wasn't an image copy of his birth certificate. I contacted the Virginia Health Department, and they said because it has not been 100 years after his death, his birth certificate was not accessible to the public. It has been 70 years since he has passed, so it will be made available to the public in the next 30 years. The only way to access it is if you're a family member who fills out an application and if you pay a fee. What I was able to find, however, was a copy of his certificate number. So if a family member or if someone 30 years from now would like to access it, all they would have to do is give a certificate number, give his name, date of birth, and they'll be able to access it. We were able to find through Ancestry a census from 1930. If you look down here where this white line is, we're able to see the Alderman family, with Harry, his father, being the head of the household, Velma, his mother, Margie, Marvin's sister, and Marvin himself. His sister Nancy had not been born yet in this 1930 census. But she is in the 1940 census 10 years later. Again, here we have the Alderman family tree. Marvin is right here where this white line is, and Nancy is now included in this census. So the picture on the very first introductory slide was obtained from his high school yearbook when he was a sophomore. This was in 1946, and he was, again, like I said, a sophomore at Radford High School. We found that he actually did not finish high school, which brings us to this second page here. This is a United States World War II Army enlistment record. And his education level when he enlisted into the Army was 2 years of high school, so he did not graduate. He enlisted into the Army on June 28th, 1946. He was a tinsmith, and I'll discuss his work later on in this presentation as well. But this was very useful information. They have a box film number here, which is essentially just a punch card number. We weren't able to find a picture of that, but it's probably in the archive somewhere if someone really wanted to obtain it. But this just kind of gives us general information about his enlistment. Another interesting fact was that he enlisted for the Hawaiian department. So he probably spent some time in Hawaii as well. So he enlisted in 1946, as mentioned, and he was part of the 512th Ordnance Heavy Automotive Maintenance Company. And because he was a tinsmith, it's Probably fair to say that he probably worked on some body work for military vehicles and whatnot. So this is a very interesting find, um, because we know that he, certainly worked with automotives, um, and a tinsmith was probably likely dealing with repairs and body work things involving military vehicles. And so another interesting find was his awards and medals, excuse me. And so this first medal here is the Korean Service Medal. The second one is the National Defense Service Medal. Then we have the Republic of Korea Presidential Citation. Then we have the Republic of Korea War Service Medal, the United Nations Service Medal, the Army Presidential Unit Citation, and the Army Good Conduct Medal. So he was a pretty well-decorated soldier, and he had these medals before he passed. Another interesting fact about Marvin was that he's remembered at the Korean War Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, I tried to go to DC and obtain a picture of it, but it was under construction, so I was not able to get a picture of it. But his name is on the Korean War Memorial Wall of Remembrance if someone ever wanted to go see it. So his cause of death, again, he died on April 1st, 1952 in the 121st Evacuation Hospital in South Korea. And he died a non-hostile death, but it was a combat injury, but not in the sense that he was in the line of fire, or he was killed by someone on the enemy side. He was actually killed by someone on the home front, by another soldier, an American soldier. And it is said that he got into a dispute with a soldier, and that soldier shot him and killed Marvin. So it was a very unfortunate death for Marvin, and probably the most interesting fact about his life is, his death was actually as a result of, a combative, argumentative conflict on the home front. So very interesting, very unfortunate how he passed away. But that was the cause of his death. I was able to find this newspaper article from the Bristol Herald Carrier from 1952, which mentions that his body returned from Korea. And it's also the first time that his wife is mentioned, the first time that we see any mention of her name. She wasn't on Ancestry or listed on Ancestry or anything like that. There's also no marriage record. So this is very interesting. It says that Corporal Marvin B. Alderman, husband of Mary L. Alderman, his wife is mentioned here, but there is no record of their marriage. I checked with the Radford Circuit Court. I checked with the Library of Virginia. And unfortunately, there was no record of their marriage. So it's inconclusive whether they were actually married or not, or whether they were just engaged. But nevertheless, very interesting that he had a wife. Her name is also mentioned on his headstone application down here at the bottom, signed Miss Mary L. Alderman. But yeah, this is his headstone application, where essentially they are putting information about him and his work on the headstone. We also found out that he was a Christian. So another very interesting find. And Marvin is buried at the Westview Cemetery in Radford, Virginia. Again, this states that he was a corporal, part of the 512th Ordnance Heavy Automotive Company, and that he died in Korea. So overall, this is our bibliography here, but this is the life of Corporal Marvin Bruce Alderman, and I hope that this research project brings his memory back to life, and that any family members who are interested in learning about their relative um, are fascinated by his accomplishments, his service to our country, and the history of his life. Thank you.